Hi, it's Dwyer. November 21st, 2023. GamblersAdvisory.com, a free site. BettingAngle.us, a free site. Let's talk football. Let's talk about futures. Let's talk about some plays that I believe have a certain amount of urgency. But first, remember, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this video to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. Now, yesterday's victory on the road, and that's what's important, folks. It was on the road by the Philadelphia Eagles in Kansas City, was major to the point where right now in November, and this is the month you want to target, right? This is how you win bets in January, in my opinion. In November, you want to put money down right now on the Eagles, whether you think they're going to win or not, to win the Super Bowl at the current odds, which are a little bit better than a plus 460. Right? Plus 460 on the Eagles to win the Super Bowl. Let me be clear here too. While I picked the Eagles in last year's Super Bowl and lost on that bet, I had the Eagles over Pat Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. Right? Disastrous second half for me. But while I lost that bet, understand I privately don't believe the Eagles are the best team in the NFC. Right? I'm extremely bullish on the San Francisco 49ers. Right? But here's what you need to know. Philly has only lost one game. That was week 6 to, believe it or not, the below 500 New York Jets. Right? They lost that game 20-14. They had 24 first downs. The Jets only had 17 first downs in that game. That's the only game Philly has lost. They are unbeaten in the NFC. Right? Understand too that they have the jump right now on teams like San Francisco. San Fran is 7-3. Right? Dallas is 7-3. Philly is 9-1. So they have the jump. Now, I know many people are looking at their schedule and they're saying, wow, you play the Bills, you play the Niners, you play the Cowboys in back-to-back weeks. Right? What I need for folks to realize is that they play the Bills at home. Right? At home. Understand, the Bills, a lot of dysfunction. Ken Dorsey gone. Right? The Bills have laid an egg against teams like the Giants at home. As it is, if you look at the splits, the Bills are a better home team than they are a road team. Philly plays the Bills in Philly. Philly plays San Francisco in Philly. Right, folks? Hate to say it, but those are winnable games. Right? Philly's going to have home field for both of the games. San Francisco, and I know they'll have a long rest period after playing Seattle, during the Thanksgiving holiday. Okay, fine. But understand, they're traveling across several time zones to get to Philly for that game in Philly. The Cowboy game, that game's in Dallas. I need for people to recognize that Dak Prescott, for whatever reason, throws more than a share of picks. Right? Also, they need to realize that right now, Philly has a multiple game lead on Dallas. Right? Understand, if Dallas wins that game, but Philly wins everything else, Philly finishes ahead of Dallas. Well, recognize that after that Dallas Cowboy game, Philly is going to, in essence, play their last competitive game of the year. They're going to have to travel to Seattle to play Seattle in Seattle. Right? Seattle, in my opinion, underrated team. Seattle's in that troublemaker category. right? Where the public doesn't realize that this team's actually dangerous. Seattle should have won this last week. Gave that game away. Right? Geno had a banged up elbow. They brought in Drew Lock, who promptly does what Drew Lock does. Threw a pick. Right? They gave away that game. They were leading, and then, of course, the Rams came back on them. Well, just understand, after Philly plays Seattle in Seattle, week 15 of the season, here are the teams they end against. Last 3 games. Right? Last 3 games. They play the Giants at home. I think that's a win for Philly. They play Arizona at home. I think that's a win for Philly. Are the Giants in Arizona going to be competitive, or are they going to be competing with each other for the first pick in the draft? Then, of course, the last game of the year, they play the Giants on the road. Does it matter where that last game of the year is? I'm a Giants fan, and I'm saying this. Right? By that point, we're going to be thinking about all these quarterbacks coming out of college. Right? We're going to say, hey, Caleb Williams, come on down. You know, we're going to be thinking about some new quarterback. We're going to be thinking about new players. We're going to be thinking about a new start. If Philly needs week 18 against the Giants at Giant Stadium, guess what, folks? They're going to win that game. So given this schedule and given the 2-game jump that they have on both the 49ers and the Cowboys, I think Philly is in the catbird seat. Now, there is a team in the NFC that right now has 8 wins, is only 1 game behind Philly, and that's the Detroit Lions. Here's what I have to say about the Lions, and I don't want it to come out the wrong way. The Lions are a different team indoors than they are outdoors, right? The Lions are great in the dome, aren't they? Look at the records. Look at the splits. They're great at home. They're not so great on the road, right? I believe the reason Jared Goff, right, former Pac-12 quarterback, right? I have to give a plug to the Pac-12, especially since it's going out of business. The reason why Jared Goff is no longer around, I believe, is because there are questions about his skills outdoors, his arm strength. He's great for an indoor team, right? When it's windy, when it's a problem, when you're in places like Philadelphia, right? You need a little bit more arm strength than Jared Goff has. Also, if you look at Philly's record against winning teams, folks, it's very hard to place anyone with them. Understand, Philly, again, has only lost to 1 team. That was a team with a losing record, the Jets. Against winning teams, when Philly's motivated, folks, they are a juggernaut. So, at this stage, and I know it sounds early, November 21st. Come on, we're not into December, Rich. What are you talking about? Right, but looking at the schedule, looking at the fact that Philly just got by some major tests. They just beat the defending Super Bowl champion in Kansas City. Right? I understand there were drop balls. KC could have done better, might have won that game. They didn't. Philly's by that test. Right? Given the fact that Philly now gets to be at home the next couple of weeks. Given the fact that Philly gets to play the Giants twice and Arizona once. I'm assuming now, November 21st, we're not even in December, that Philly is going to have home field advantage in the playoffs. And what that means is the first game they can't lose because they get a bye week. Then, of course, they're going to be dealing with teams in Philadelphia weather. Right, folks? I know the 49ers. I'm here in the Bay Area, as I like to say in every other video. I know 49er fans believe that last year was a fluke. Right? The bottom line is the Niners went to Philly last year and lost that game. Right? That's the bottom line. The bottom line is that the Niners are not going to have home field advantage in the playoffs. Right? The bottom line is that the Cowboys have a recent history of failing in the playoffs, don't they? They look good for the first game, then the second game things fall apart. Right? Given that reality, and I do think the Niners have a shot at beating Philly, but given that reality and the fact that you're getting a favored team right now, they're the favorites in the NFC, at better than plus 450 odds with this schedule and with this record against teams with winning records. I think Philly plus 460 to win the Super Bowl is a no-brainer. Now let me add a disclaimer here. I plan to hedge later. What that means is, again, I feel the Niners are a better team than Philly. Right? There is the possibility that when the Niners play Philly in the playoffs, that the sun's out, that it's not windy, that it's unseasonably warm, that, dare I say, it's Bay Area weather. Right? There is that possibility. Right? I don't necessarily think Philly wins the Super Bowl. Although they should have won last year's Super Bowl, I'm still sore over that. Double-digit lead, fumble, okay. But I'm not saying Philly necessarily wins the Super Bowl. What I am saying, though, is you want the position here because it's never going to be cheaper. Right? Sorry, Josh Allen has thrown too many picks this year. I know we're saying, okay, Buffalo proved the point last week. Okay, let's see them do that against the team with the best record in football this week on the road. I have my doubts. I don't think you're going to get Philly at plus 460 again. Right? Where that plus 460 becomes entertaining to have is when you're in the playoffs. And you're looking at other teams and you're saying, yeah, I think San Francisco's the team to beat. And then when San Francisco plays Philly, you realize, hey, you know what? I'm covered whoever wins this game. Because back in November, I got Philly at plus 460. Right? Detroit, God bless them, they just don't have the history, the recent history Philly has. Right? I'm not talking about Nick Foles winning a Super Bowl recently. No, I'm talking about last year with that double-digit lead against Pat Mahomes in the Super Bowl. Right? With this quarterback, Jalen Hurts. Right? Just understand, Philly has the recent history on their side. Philly has the current record on its side. Philly has the schedule on its side. 2 games against the Giants. Does it get better than that? Folks, I'm a Giant fan. I was cheering. We just beat Washington. I was cheering our third-string quarterback pulling that off, having 3 TDs. But that's exactly the point. The Giants are on their third-string quarterback. 2 games against them? Right, let me ask a foundational question too. Given his injury history, are you sure Kyler Murray is even going to be on the field when Philly plays Arizona later this year? Right, Philly plus 460, that's a must-add to your betting portfolio. I would also sprinkle a little bit on Detroit, simply because Detroit has 8 wins. If you look at their schedule, they're playing teams like Green Bay and Minnesota, which is a far cry from who the Cowboys play. Right? We're just thinking this out. Understand, the flip side of Detroit being not quite Detroit on the road is that Detroit is a juggernaut indoors. Right? Teams like the 49ers don't play indoors when they're at home. Right? So there's a possibility that Jared Goff without elite arm strength. Might be a juggernaut indoors, right? That's certainly a possibility. Lord knows you're getting much better odds. You're getting a plus 1,000 plus on Detroit right now, right? Again, the goal is to view it as a betting portfolio. You don't have to walk around saying, hey, I think Detroit wins the NFC, right? We all understand. 49ers, Philly, Dallas, they're probably more loaded teams than Detroit there, right? But your betting situation, right? 8 wins is 8 wins. By the way, that's more wins than the Niners have right now. That's more wins than Dallas has right now, right? 8 wins is 8 wins. A home field advantage is a home field advantage. Right? Just food for thought. You don't have to have the conference home field advantage to be able to have the luxury of playing at home before the conference championship game. Right? You're getting them at a better than 10-1 clip right now to win it all. You might as well take that bet. Just understand, when you reach a stage where you feel that Detroit might not go further, then you could cash out by taking the team on the other side of the play. Right? Food for thought. So, today, November 21st, I'm encouraging bettors to do what I've done. Right? Put some money on Philly. Right? For me, I added a little bit to a team I thought was dominant earlier in the year. Right? And I also put some on the Detroit Lions. Let me add another team. And I know this one's going to be controversial and it's going to come back to bite me. Has anyone paid attention to the fact that, for whatever reason, Russell Wilson, who, by the way, has been to 2 Super Bowls, should have won 2 Super Bowls. He won one. He was on the 1-yard line, about to punch it in the other. You might remember that Super Bowl against Tom Brady and New England, right? For some reason, Denver, 5-5, by the way, they're 500, right? For them, it's a 7-game season now. For some reason, Denver has done well against elite teams, right? Has anyone figured that out? You have Sean Payton. You have a defense that is radically better. And I mean radically better than the defensive unit that gave up a lot of points to Miami earlier in the year. Let's just talk about Denver's record. Denver, on their streak, right, has beaten Green Bay, which is still in the hunt for the playoffs. They beat Kansas City, the defending Super Bowl champions. They've beaten Buffalo in Buffalo. And they've beaten Minnesota, right? A team that's above 500, right? Folks, let's add it together. I'll just say their last 3 games have been against teams 500 or better, right? Think about this schedule. They're now catching Cleveland at home. Right? You've heard me talk about the Giants being on their 3rd-string quarterback. Folks, Cleveland is, without Deshaun Watson, you're getting a weakened Cleveland squad. Then, of course, the next 2 games are on the road against rookie quarterback. He looks great, but he's a rookie. Won by less than a touchdown this last week. C.J. Stroud in Houston. Then they play a team that, to me, has to be among the leading candidates to fire their coach. The Los Angeles Chargers in LA, and you and I know, the Chargers in LA don't really have a home stadium. You're going to have a lot of Bronco fans show up for that game. Then, of course, they play the Detroit Lions in Detroit. Even I'm expecting them to lose that game. But here are the last 3 games. They return home to play the Patriots. Right? By that point, the season for the Patriots already looks over. By week 16, it'll definitely be over. After that, they play the Chargers again. Right? Then they closed the season on the road against the Las Vegas Raiders. Right? Now, I'm a Giants fan. I love Antonio Pierce, great player, great leader. Right? But the Raiders are beatable. So you're talking about a Bronco team that's 5-5 that, to me, might be able to sweep the Chargers, beat the Patriots, beat the Raiders. Folks, that's a lot of games. They might even be able to beat Cleveland, who they're playing at home. You're getting outrageous odds on Denver, in part because of that 70-20, 50-point loss to the Dolphins in Week 3. Right? In part because this is a team that lost to the Jets. This is a team that earlier lost to the Raiders. Right, folks? It's November. The Broncos are 500 with some winnable games left on their schedule and a quarterback who's been to multiple Super Bowls and a head coach who has won a Super Bowl, and, of course, a wide receiver, Courtland Sutton, who's playing at close to Pro Bowl level. Right? Food for thought. I've sprinkled a little bit on the Broncos to win the AFC. Look, I'm not here saying they're better than Kansas City, Jacksonville. I'm not saying they're better than Miami. Right? But again, the situation is what it is. This is a team that might end the season with 10 wins, might make the playoffs, and then what's the problem you would have? You would have great odds on them if you get them here, right? 2 games against the Chargers, 1 against New England, 1 against the Raiders, 1 against Cleveland with Cleveland's backup. Folks, they already have 5 wins. Think it through. Anyway, that's how I see it. Sprinkle a little bit on Denver. It's a speculation to win the AFC. All I'm saying is, if your problem is that you get great leverage on a team that makes the playoffs, lucky you. That's how I see it. Let me hear from you. I hope you leave your comments in the comment section of this YouTube video. Thanks for stopping by. We'll continue to look for situations as they emerge.